This video is brought to you in association with Dubby Energy Blend. Use the coupon code GINGERMEDIA to get 10% off your next purchase. Link in the description. What do you think a commentary team is necessary to take a match to that next level? And that's why I don't exercise. Save for the fact I'm a lazy,
Oh yeah,
lazy
that's
bastard.
the reason you don't exercise.
That's the reason I tell people. Jack of all trades and master of none is really what it's about with me.
I love the use of Jack and Master there.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Raw is Ginger.
Welcome back, everybody, to the next episode of Raw is Ginger. As always, with me is Andrew Dunnan and John Toner. Guys, how are yous?
Yeah, looks like me and you are the men in black tonight, Kev.
Yeah, well, not really.
Here's what I've got. Well, that Metal Ginger Show t-shirt. The one with the old logo. There we go. What? These are officially like, collector's items because both the logos have changed since then. So yeah, we are in rare possession of them. But the only person that would want this t-shirt is my cat to hump it because of my sweat. Seriously, that is actually true. Like she gets turned on by my sweat. That's why I don't exercise. Save for the fact I'm a lazy,
Oh yeah,
lazy
that's
bastard.
the reason you don't exercise.
That's the reason I tell people.
Because I don't want to arouse my cat. Fuck off.
It was so. Let's see the first time that actually happened. Like we just moved out of the house. When I was in it's a very strenuous process. So get in. Well, we get everything sorted. Alison and I ordering like a Chinese and stuff, and we're like, "Fuck it, we can't be fucked. What doing any unpacking the night? We just got in. Let's just go for a sleep." Because I was working the next day. They wouldn't let me have the day off. The fuckers. What? So I went to sleep, and all I could hear was this like tingling. This ringing a bell, and I thought it was Rita because we'd left all the doors, except for obviously the front and the back door, left all the doors in the house open so that she could figure her way, in a new space, in a new territory. And I thought maybe she just climbed in. We got a wee cupboard on our fence, a cupboard in our bedroom, but it's like a fence. Well, and I was kind of like, oh, maybe she's there, and I'm like, but it doesn't sound like it's coming from that side of the room. It sounds like it's coming from mine. So I switched on my phone light and looked down, and I just saw like Rita just going to town on one of my purple t-shirts. What? Yeah, it got burned very quickly after that. I actually woke Alison up, which you should never do, as we all know. Never wake a sleeping woman. But I had to because I thought, am I fucking hallucinating? What? And she looked. It's just like,
what was in that Chinese?
Yeah, it's just like, what is the cat doing to your t-shirt? And I'm like, I think she's riding it.
The irony is, though, right, is you've built this.
That it was the closest to pussy I ever got. Yeah.
No. You've got two kids, so 1 point you did get close, but you've built this platform. You've done a great job building a platform. However, you would have doubled your subscribers if you recorded that.
Cat humps t-shirt.
I have actually done that though. I've recorded it because nobody believed. Nobody
14
believed
million
me.
views.
Yeah, I haven't put up the actual. It wasn't the actual night. It was a time later on. Well, I know this makes me sound like a complete cat pervert, but it's not the case.
Cat pervert.
Well, there's more cat killers than there is, cat perverts. Well, especially if you watch the Netflix one.
Oh yeah.
But it was just one of the days I came home from my work and I was just like, what? I was done, and then I was just like, right. Oh, it was one of those ones you just want to get straight in your jammies after because it doesn't matter if it's like 4 PM or whatever. You're just like, fuck. So and just as I was getting ready, Rita came in and she was just sniffing the t-shirt, and then all of a sudden, that was her like rolling in amongst it and stuff, and I'm like, this is proof. But what camera to go and what? Because Alison still didn't believe kind of what she'd saw that night. She thought it was just that we were just like too knackered from everything that from moving. And I showed her, I'm like, proof. There you go. She's fucking riding my t-shirt.
Did you not ask why you were vigorously? Did you not ask why you were vigorously clapping your hands whilst recording this though?
I think she was more impressed that I was able to vigorously clap my hands while I was recording with another hand.
You do have many talents, I will say, and it is a one-handed job.
Jack of all trades and master of none is really what it's about with me.
I love the use of Jack and Master there.
Yes, that's getting clipped for the intro. Right. So, Tor, since this was your call to do this one, why don't you tell whoever's watching this, like the three people that are watching it, what match we're covering tonight?
So it's from ECW's Living Dangerously on the 1st of March 1998 at Asbury Park in New Jersey. And it is Taz versus Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah. The ultimate irony is that the time of this recording is the 1st of March. I think you did this deliberately.
Yeah.
You know, I would love to say that I thought that far ahead. I did not.
Yeah. It was that way. I was like, when I went on to watch the match, and obviously they do what the American time, what the dating time. So it was 1998, and then 1-3, and I was like, was it the 3rd of January? And then there's a wee intro with Michael Cole and Taz. Back when Michael Cole and Taz were Michael Cole and Taz. What the good old days. And yeah, it was them talking about it. Then he said 1st of March, and I was like, I don't know. Yeah. That's just clicked. So we'll claim that you did it deliberately, just so we have it. But it won't be going out in the 1st of March anyway. So, but I just wanted the audience to know that at the time of this recording, it is the 1st of March. Right. So we'll do a wee kind of, again, for anybody that's new to this, we do a kind of brief of what we thought of it. Then we go into a bit more of a deep dive, and then we just kind of do the roundup. So, Kev, what were your initial thoughts on it? I mean, I was never like an ECW guy back in the day, as we kind of established from the WCW one. Go and watch that as well.
Yep.
But what did you make of it?
Well, it was late '97 that I started to get into ECW.
Yeah,
because that's really when it started to pick up, and then like seeing the amount of stuff that they were doing that was just completely out there and so much better, considering that this was like getting to the height of the Attitude Era. And it's like ECW is just doing so much more. They could take over, because there was times where it's like, what are they doing? And people were watching that instead of WCW and WWF at the time. And it's like, well, I need to go and see this.
Yeah.
So I started watching it, and then you're seeing people like RVD and Taz and Sabu. I mean, Tommy Dreamer, the Dudleys.
Yeah.
So when they came into WWF, I was like, this is going to be insane. They don't take prisoners. And I was glad that a lot of the Dudleys didn't come with them, and it was just Bobbery and Devon, because some of the Dudleys that they had were a bit mental. Like Sign Guy Dudley, what was he?
Oh my god, it was. Like I say, I watched one of it was like the best like kayfabe actions, or like families. And number 2 was the Dudleys, and I was like, what the hell? I only knew Bobbery, Devon, and Spike. I knew about Big Daddy Dudley, and I just knew that he was a Hoormeister. But aside from that, that was all I knew.
And then there was Big Dick Dudley.
Brilliant.
Every faction needs a big dick.
Exactly.
That's why, like,
I'm here.
Toner in.
Yep.
Yeah. I knew. I thought I'd say it before you did. That way, it actually makes it sound shite. Well, so, Toner, speaking of which, Toner, I've got to ask, why did you pick this match specifically?
I think it was more I wouldn't ever say it was the greatest match that I've ever seen. But I thought it was enjoyable. More so the start and the end of the match. I thought it was enjoyable. I think in middle it was slow. It was fun. It was in Bigelow's kind of home crowd.
Yeah.
So they were very for him. I picked it out. I had a few when we were looking. I've got like a kind of bunch of matches kind of sitting down. Some famous matches that we'll all have heard of. Other maybe slightly more obscure ones, possibly this one being in one of the more obscure categories. And I literally looked down and I went, right, let's go with something a bit more obscure. We covered, WCW, we covered kind of WWF, whatever. And I thought, right, well, let's, at that time, as Kev was saying, ECW was starting to really progress, a lot of good stuff going on. And I just thought we'd take, because this was probably more of a, now not their biggest ever match in ECW, probably not even in the top 10, but more an obscure match of work that they had going on. I thought there was a couple of, decent spots in the match as well. And two wrestlers that, obviously done a lot in the business as well.
Yeah. And you can tell that it is an obscure match because when I was doing my kind of research on it, there was not a lot of YouTube episodes on any of the wrestling kind of podcasts or channels about this match. So we have picked our niche one right here of what we can talk about. And one point that I actually wanted to discuss with you guys was that the commentary team was pretty shit. They were slow, they weren't engaged. I mean, they probably didn't know they were being filmed, in fairness. What I would maybe guess from that. But it begs the question of, what do you think a commentary team is necessary to take a match to that next level? And if so, what is your kind of best example of it?
Oh, I think 100% a kind of commentary team, definitely, because when you think about it, you're watching it in the telly, whether it's TV, DVD, whatever, but you're watching it on screen. The commentary team are what hype you up, the way that they describe things, their kind of enthusiasm, their energy is what you go with when you look at, and even them bouncing off each other. Obviously the perfect examples can be the likes of when you look at Paul Heyman, commentary outstanding at building something. Yeah. But when you look at teams working off each other, I mean, King and JR are probably one of the biggest classic examples of two guys, staying in character, keeping the kayfabe alive, and they've got some of the most quoted commentary lines going, when you look at Puppies, Slobber Knocker, because what they say and what they do can also create a different element on catchphrases. I mean, you look at, I know it's a wrestling podcast, but you look at football as well, for example. When you watch a replay, a famous moment, a famous goal, something big, imagine it was a monotone, boring commentary. It loses a lot of impact there.
I know it's bad because we're talking about that. Like, I've got, remember Fernando Torres' goal in the Champions League? Gary Neville? That is now running through my head, and it says, like, for anybody that isn't a football fan, it basically sounds like he's having an orgasm. What is it? What it was? I remember hearing it going, "What the hell was that?" But it made the moment as well, especially because Fernando Torres was at Chelsea. They was shite at that point.
Exactly, and that's the point. It makes it, right away talk about football, you talk about that. It's the same with wrestling,
Exactly.
You look at all these massive moments in wrestling, when you look through things like, Kane's first ever appearance, and you think back to the commentary, Vince McMahon in commentary then, and the way he just puts everything across, and you look at that, and it definitely makes a difference.
Yeah. I mean, even the first episode that we done, like, was obviously Mankind and the Undertaker. There was great, obviously, the spots that we've covered, but JR and JR in particular, I think, what sold that because of his reaction, because it was 100% genuine. He thought Mick Foley was dead.
Yeah,
everybody did.
Yeah, it was quite funny because I was watching Wrestling Bios YouTube channel. Well, I'm giving them a plug because I really like the guy's content, and he's got a great Irish accent. And he was talking about King of the Ring 98, and he brought up a lot of the points that we'd been talking about as well. Because his dropped after us, but probably filmed before it. And he was saying he felt sorry for all the matches on that card because there was some blinders in there, and I'm like, yes. And then he was like, yeah, everybody was going nuts because they just witnessed something special. And then the second the crowd realized he hasn't moved and Vince McMahon is out of character, he's broke his own kayfabe, and they were like,
Yeah.
shit, and it just went silent, and I was like, this is what we were talking about. Just on a smaller scale. What about you, Kev? What would you say was your best commentary team?
Best, I'd probably say, was have to be JR and the King.
Fair enough.
And I know you like JR and Paul Heyman. They were a great team.
I do, but they're not my favourite.
If there wasn't that before it, Paul Heyman coming in and taking over for Jerry the King Lawler, the dynamic wouldn't have worked as well. Say if it was somebody like JR with Randy Savage, and then Paul Heyman come in, the dynamic would be completely different. But if it was say it was JR with Roddy Piper, and then Paul Heyman come in, that dynamic would work because Roddy Piper's got that sort of mentality, the same as Paul Heyman, so that could have worked.
Yeah. At the same time, though, what I think that what Heyman and JR had a natural chemistry, it would have been maybe more jarring, I think, but it would have also seemed more fresh. But they aren't my favourite commentary team, and this is an out there one, but it brings it back to the point. Michael Cole and Taz for me was an unexpectedly good partnership. Taz has got such a great knowledge of the industry. He's got a great knowledge of all the competitors that are in it. Well, Michael Cole, see, when he's left to just be Michael Cole, he's shit hot. Well, when he's not got, somebody trying to drip feed everything into his ear or being told he has to play a heel character of himself. Oh my God. Well, when he just left to be Michael Cole, he's good. He's like, you're not in the business that long if you're not good at what you do. And him and Taz just had a natural chemistry. They were really good. I always loved when, Brock Lesnar was coming out in SmackDown, because I would always start with Taz going, well, here comes the pain. And then I would go into like Michael Cole saying something, and Taz would bounce off it. And I was like, it was always like, for me, it was like 4 to 5 star commentary all the time, just natural and so good. It was why when like they did, during the invasion angle, they had at one point JR and Michael Cole, and it was only one episode. They were good, but you could tell that you needed someone that wasn't the straight. You can't have 2 straight guys on it. You have to have someone that's a bit more heelish, but not like totally heel. Yeah, just like like the King, basically. Right, so you had to have that dynamic. And even though they were good together, it was refreshing. I was like, when Taz came out and was like the next week, escort Mr. Cole to the backstage area and brought out Heyman, and I was like, oh, this could be interesting. So anyway,
the thing about the commentary team in ECW, they weren't really up to par.
No, they were shite.
Because
let's just be honest, they were pish.
Because it wasn't that was the draw. It was the actual wrestlers in the ring. Yeah. So the commentary didn't need to be there, because it was like a completely independent. So that we need to make this look as grungy as possible and sound as grungy as possible. Yeah. And they did. And it was terrible. And Joey Styles jumping about the back, doing his interviews. It's like, he's terrible. He was always terrible.
Just look at Toner's face, just like lighting up there when you were talking about that.
I mean, and it's right. It's true. I mean, ECW, you never watch that for the commentary, for the kind of draw of that, or like you watch that because you wanted to see blood. You wanted to see crazy spots that other places just weren't doing.
That was quite the thing I found surprising, though. There was no blood in this match.
No. Yeah.
Which was rare. Like you said, we expect to see carnage. And while there was some insane spots, there wasn't any blood. And I was like, that's missing. But don't get me wrong, there was a couple of points in the match, like when Taz did that kind of reverse suplex on
the T-bone.
The T-bone, yeah.
Back
of the head. I genuinely thought, like, oh my God, how does Taz still have a brain? after that, and it's the fact like the size difference between them as well. Like Taz is what 5'8", 150. I think he was what 150 pounds. What Vader 350, 6'4". That was like one of the ones I was like, it should not have been as good, but it was surprisingly good.
The thing about Bam Bam is, even though he was like 6 foot and built like a tank, he could move.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it in the match. He goes up and he does a moonsault.
I know. I was like, what the fuck have I just seen here?
And the reason he decided, when he got into wrestling, the reason he decided to start doing moonsaults is because he's like, I saw somebody that was near enough the size of me doing a moonsault, and he was talking about Vader, who would also go up and do moonsaults, and it's like, how are these guys doing this? And again, Vader, he could move.
Why? Vader was certainly an interesting character. We'll just say that. But yeah, I know this is going to sound really weird, but we're talking about ECW, so it's allowed to sound weird. See, when Taz came out, with his entrance, he's got really nice legs. I'm not gonna lie. I looked at it, I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" I was like, he had some good pins on him.
It's because when you're doing suplex, it all comes for the legs.
It was every day was leg day for Taz.
Yep.
I don't think it helped as well. Like he came out and these wee kind of, obviously they're just like these shoes to help, like obviously lighten his feet and stuff, but they looked very feminine as well, just for that split second. And I was like, holy crap! I genuinely thought it was like Jazz or Jacqueline or something coming out at first, and I'm like, wait, no, this is Taz. This genuinely is Taz. What? But he has legs that are like rivaling Stacy Keibler's. What the fuck? How is this possible?
I mean, it's funny though, we spoke about commentary and you mentioned Gary Neville having an orgasm over Torres's goal. I think you've had an orgasm over Taz's legs.
Yeah. It was the surprise of it all. It's ECW. Like you said, we expect grunge. We expect blood. We don't expect perfectly shaven legs and perfectly shaped legs on leg day from Taz in ECW in 1998. Can I not make my point clearer? I was like, what? It was like a clusterfuck in my brain. I couldn't believe it. And then we get to the action, and then I was like, okay, we're back to it at ECW. This video is brought to you in association with 7 Million Bikes Podcasts, providing a comprehensive step-by-step service, as well as accessing a range of affiliate partnerships to provide you with discounts on your podcasting journey. For a free consultation, the link will be in the description of this video. So let's talk about, I can really only think of about 2, maybe 3 points of this match. What about you guys? Can you actually think of anything more than 2 or 3 significant spots? The ones that I've got in my head was the T-bone that we talked about, T-bone suplex, the end, and the moonsault. That was really about it.
I did quite like early on, very early in the match, the kind of clothesline over the top rope. The reason
that was very well executed.
You know, and I think as well, it just kind of that highlights ECW in the way that there was a lot of, you could tell there was a lot of ferocity put into that. I mean, it even took Taz off his feet.
Yeah.
There was a lot kind of put into that, and I think even very early on in the match when Taz was doing the tosses and stuff, was kind of one showing his technique, but 2 how it didn't matter the size of Bigelow, he was using his momentum against him.
Yeah,
when he was running towards him.
Another thing as well is, up until then, whenever Bam Bam Bigelow's in a match, no matter who he's in it with, whether they're tiny, whether they're massive, he does not go down first time. He done a match with Andre the Giant in 1988, and Andre clotheslined him, and he didn't move. And Andre the Giant said to him, "Don't move. This is building you." And Bam Bam's like, "But you're Andre the Giant. You could flick me down." And he's like, "Don't move." And then, in the same way that Andre the Giant done that for him, he said to Taz, "Clothesline me and I will go down." Because at this point, Bam Bam's been in the business for like 15, 17 years or something. And Taz, he started in ECW and he was like top tier at this point. But this was pushing him further. This was getting him into like the heavyweight title scene because he was the television champion at the time. So it's like they're trying to push him further. It's like, who can we get legitimately in that could beat Taz, but it will show Taz as top tier? And like, well, let's get Bam Bam in. He can make anybody look good. And it's like, even like Vader was in a match with Bam Bam, and like they would both run into each other. None of them would move. And it's like, because it's basically impossible to move any of them.
An unstoppable force meets an immovable object.
Exactly.
Yeah, and one of the things like that Toner mentioned was the crowd.
Yeah.
And even though it was Bam Bam's hometown, at some points when Taz was starting to get the upper hand, there were some chants for him. I did notice that. And then, of course, Bam Bam puts him in his arse, and it's like, okay, back to Bam Bam.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
But so,
and I kind of felt that the crowd were right into it at the beginning and at the end, but I felt there was, even the crowd during the middle of it, there was points and periods where you felt they were kind of, going away, and they weren't paying as much attention, they weren't as into it as what they were. But I think they kind of done the purpose, the wrestlers, because I know it's a story and you want to have a 5-star match all the time. But now Jericho was kind of saying it's impossible to do that. You're never going to. But the start it was memorable for certain points, and the end it was memorable. Nobody really talks about the middle.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this was the best match on the card.
Yeah.
Because the rest of them were not on par for ECW, especially the three-way dance match. I mean, at the start it was fine, and then you get Spike Dudley and New Jack coming down, and then for the rest of the match, New Jack's music just plays for the entirety of the match.
Good old New Jack.
It's like a 15-minute match, and there's just this music playing, and it's like, what the hell's going on? Turn the music off.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, it did drown out the commentary, which is like, well, I suppose there's some good points to that. I suppose.
Every cloud, really.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's going back to the kind of the commentary. I know that I have ripped on it, but what it lacked in commentary, it made up for in passion, like from for the wrestling side of it, as like Toner had said, like, Taz is running it, Bam Bam full force, clotheslines him, at full speed, and he knocks himself out. So it just shows that there was passion and commitment, and everything was at breakneck speed.
Yeah.
To try and when they were trying to do things. Then of course they try and set up a table and the table breaks without that.
And the ECW fans, they were always renowned for being very passionate.
Oh yeah.
So the commentary became kind of secondary at times, because the crowd in a lot of big matches, big spots, would drown out anything round about that was happening.
Yeah.
Those ECW chants are obviously still famous. When that would just shake an arena.
I know. When you watch like earlier matches, when it's went from Eastern Championship to Extreme Championship wrestling, it's like the crowd have started just becoming as rowdy as what the wrestling is. And see, if the crowd weren't behind a match, they would just start shouting, fuck this shit. And then the referee would be like that, and they'd be like, right. And then they just end the match within like a minute, because they're not enjoying it. So that, right, let's move on. We'll get another match in. I mean, that was supposed to be a 15-minute match. They're 3 minutes in. We need to call it. Let's get somebody else in. Let's get Sabu and Rob Van Dam down. Get them in for a 15, 20-minute match.
Yeah. It's one
and
of the
people
things,
would sit and watch that.
It's one of the things that's missing nowadays from it, is that they just seem to treat the crowd as just like a necessity. That they're just a given, that they're just going to be there and they're just going to be part of it. What that was in particularly highlighted, it's been highlighted a lot, especially like, you know, the Daniel Bryan stuff, the Roman Reigns babyface stuff. What the crowd turned, and they were just like, screw you guys, we don't care about the crowd. What it's starting to come back again. But at the same time, the Sami Zayn stuff, obviously we're a bit further down the road by the time this comes out. But I don't agree with the call that they made in the Elimination Chamber. I think that even if it was a case of, say, like Sami won it, and then Cody totally fucks him over and wins it, then it becomes a triple threat for WrestleMania. Could have been something to run with. But yeah, I think it's just, they just did that to the ginger.
The crowd now, especially in WWE, in my opinion, are just treated like cash cows.
Oh, aye.
You know, it's how much stuff can we ram down their throats that they're going to purchase, that they're going to buy? Yeah, it's great to have their buy-in. It's great for them to enjoy the matches, because that's also what keeps putting bums in seats and bringing them back. However, you know, you're looking, a lot of places they go to could sell 2 and 3 times over.
Yeah.
So for me, I think the crowd become secondary in a lot of decisions that are made. I mean, I always agreed with what Triple H said when it was, you know, you do something that shocks them. You do something that's not expected. It might not always be, you know, happy, but you're not always going to get happy. You know, that's why you've got heels and everything there. But when you look at ECW, it was generally, you felt the wrestling and what these guys put themselves through was done for that crowd. It was done for the audience, whereas now I feel that that's secondary.
Yeah, and I think the best way the way that kind of proved it was not just Daniel Bryan, not just the Roman Reigns stuff, but the COVID. They were able to just carry on like nothing happened. And it was just a case of, they'll still tune in. And then they realized, shit, they're not tuning in. This is actually dead as a dodo. Let's just get the screens up and everybody can watch it all. And it still wasn't the same, but they were just like, let's just carry on. It's all right. It's okay. We'll just carry on. When you think about like a Scotsman won at WrestleMania during COVID, imagine if that was when it was meant to have been with crowds, the place would have been fucking exploding. And it was just such a letdown for the guy.
And I mean, bear in mind though, they had to kind of keep it going because they've got all their TV deals and contracts that states that they have to kind of continue it. But I do feel like, you know, I mean, probably better people than us have sat and thought about it, but it could have been done a lot better.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing.
I mean,
but anything that happened during that time, hindsight was a wonderful thing.
Again, I think, you know, again, as I say, even when the crowds there are not there, and they're virtually there, they're just now secondary. It's all about who can get a catchphrase over, you know, who can do something that's going to then start having merchandise selling for them because they're getting royalties for that merchandise. You know, who can do all this stuff so that you make the biggest impact with the biggest money. And again, you kind of pull back to, but that's the difference between now and then. You know, back then in ECW, it was very much, we want this passionate crowd. We want them to be all in on every fucking match. We want them to be all over the top of it. Whereas now, how many matches now, as Kev was saying about when matches would get called back in the days of ECW, how many times really did you sit and watch wrestling now? See that the crowd aren't into a match. You're watching it on the telly, you're not really feeling the match. You know, that's when you'll go, you'll get a drink, you'll go to the toilet, you'll do what you're doing, and you come back, and the match is still going because that's been scheduled to go for X amount of time.
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching the Tajiri Rhino match, a match which should have been great on paper, and the crowd just went into it, and Vince just came down and was just like, get the hell out of my ring. Even back then, they still kind of listened to a crowd. Now, like you said, it's just that point where, you know, all right, I can go for a whiz and it won't actually affect anything that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Never used to be back in the day, but I now watch a lot of stuff and I'll fast forward some amount of it. Unless it's a live.
That's pretty much what's going to happen with this podcast, isn't
it? if I record, like say Raw, SmackDown, I can see me fast forwarding a good half of that 3/4, it depending on what's going on. But back in the day, you would. I mean, ECW, you would never fast forward that because mental sports happen continuously.
Yeah.
It's like nowadays, I can watch for example, the Paul Heyman Cody Rhodes promo, and that summed up an entire episode.
Yeah,
because it was like, okay, that's what I need to see, and it was a 10-minute clip. And then the following week, it was the Sami Zayn Cody Rhodes promo. Again, 9 minutes, summed up the entire thing.
Yeah,
and that's basically what it's become. It's become, let's get enough for a short form content in terms of wrestling terms, and get out there. And then that's you've caught up with everything you need to know.
And another thing about WWE just now is it's all about what's happening backstage, the interviews, and building up the people. But it's like, it's supposed to be a wrestling show.
Exactly. It was one of the reasons
Where's the wrestling?
It was one of the things I liked about the wrestling back then was because I liked the promos. Because in a way it was promoting mental health. In the sense that it was promoting mental health because they were coming out and bearing their soul to a crowd. So they were getting things off their chest. It was a positive experience. And then they would beat the crap out of each other. It was great.
Yeah.
So you were like, if you wanted something that was good for your mental health, that was fine. But if you weren't all about that, you could just smack a guy with a chair. Oh, cool.
I know.
It appealed to both sides. Anyway, what was probably the most memorable spot of the match? Taz is locking in his submission. Man Bigelow just goes and right through the ring. The entire crowd, you know that you've got a pop because the crowd just stand up. That's all you need to know. If a crowd stands up, you know you've done a good one. No one has
a stand up and stay.
Yeah, they stand up and stay. And they're not throwing anything. But yeah, they stood up. Commentary team is commentary team. I mean, they're quiet as mutes. That's how they're done. And it's just a case of Bam Bam comes out, drags Taz out. 1, 2, 3. He gets the title. Do you think that was the right call?
I think it was.
Yeah.
To further the story and to get Taz to where he had to be at that time, he needed to drop that belt so that he could go further.
Right. What about you, Tony?
And I'm the exact same, because there was obviously build up towards it and then what happens afterwards. And I think, the kind of feel good moment of the crowd, the majority of the time being for Bam Bam and him then getting that feel good moment, the crowd getting that, and Taz being able to kind of move off and further on in other directions.
So we're coming up on time, not surprisingly. We'll do our usual 5-star rating system. So Toner, since this was your pick, you will go first. What would you give it?
Honestly, I'm going to go with 2.5.
More than you gave the last episode.
I think I'm being generous on 2.5, but I do think there was good spots in it. I do think it worked well for the overall story. So yeah, I'm going to go with the 2.5.
Kev, what about you?
I'd probably say it's closer to just 2. Like Tony was saying, it's a lot of good spots in the match, and it furthered the story. I mean, considering it was like a 13-minute match, and you had those 3 big spots. I mean, you're lucky to get 3 big spots in like a 5-minute and like a 50-minute match.
Yeah. I think you were more right about getting any spots in a 5-minute match.
Aye.
But yeah. So a 2.5 from Toner, a 2 from you. I'm actually going to go the lowest. I'm going 1.5. Because again, there is only 2 spots, that 2 to 3 spots max I could remember. And I watched it 1 hour before we started recording. So if that doesn't sum it up, I don't know what else does. And I watched the full thing.
Mhm.
Well, it was just, right. I remember Moonsault. I remember Taz smacking his noggin. I remember them going through the ring. That was it. Well, again, the commentary team was just utter pish, but that's, as Toner stated, that's not what ECW was there for. We were there for blood, basically.
Yeah.
But even the crowd was a bit, for an ECW crowd, we knew how much they could be ferocious, and they were relatively tame.
It was a relatively tame pay-per-view, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was one of the tamest ones.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe why I've rated it so low, because when you go into ECW, you expect the gore, the carnage, the craziness, and it wasn't there. But
the thing is that
I can't fault the 2 professionals in the ring.
Yeah,
they put on a good show. Just everything else let it down.
The match that followed it had been pre-recorded earlier, and there was a whole thing about the censors didn't want this played, and it was Sabu and Sandman. It was one of the most boring matches ever. Sandman was just far too drunk.
Sounds about right.
And this was recorded as they got there, because Paul Heyman's like, look, he's just going to get worse. We'll record that match. We'll make up some stuff and say that the censors have said it's too much. And then we'll cut to that because they needed to fix the ring a bit. And it was so slow considering it's a Sabu match. And like a year previously, he'd been in a match with Terry Funk, ripped his bicep on barbed wire, and wrapped it up with duct tape to finish the match.
Yeah.
And then it's supposed to be like a Julian Canes match, so they're just using the kendo sticks in each other. And there was like 2 spots in that match.
That's only 1 less than this one, in fairness. But,
aye.
Yeah, that was our first foray into ECW. Well, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more ones that we can cover. I want to cover at some point the really batshit crazy stuff. I want to cover ICW or something, or just something that's just totally like deathmatch wrestling and stuff. Oh, we could even do a side thing and do rewatches of Celebrity Deathmatch. That would be interesting. You think?
What one?
Let's just do a rewatch series. Let's rewatch the full fucking thing. Get down to Toner's man cave. I'll bring the portable kit. We'll sit and watch it and just do reaction videos. Let us know. Do you want to see us do reactions to Celebrity Deathmatch? I don't care if you say yes or no, because I think we're fucking doing it anyway. Right. Well, everybody, this has been Raw as Ginger. I've been Andrew Durnan. I've been with your hosts, Kevin Tierney and John Toner. Good night.
See ya.
Cheers.